Today we're going to go over how to execute Roman numerals. Now, if you've ever tried to do these before, you're going to find that they're so perfect that sometimes they are very hard to execute. During this video, I'm going to teach you how to tattoo these in the easiest step process. As you watch, I'm doing all my horizontals first. By doing that, it's going to make every letter line up perfectly. As you're tattooing your Roman numerals, the key to make these things look nice and perfect is to do these parallel lines first. It's going to help them stay straight. A lot of times when I see people do Roman numerals or I see Roman numeral tattoos on people, the biggest thing I notice is that each letter is not in line, and that's what throws it off and makes it look like a beginner's tattoo. Using glide between each pass is going to help eliminate that flood factor that a lot of times happens when you're tattooing. Now, if you want to keep that stencil for as long as possible, make sure you're applying guide and dab with a paper towel instead of wipe, and that's going to hold the longevity of your tattoo stencil. Now I'm moving into doing the bottom parallel lines. Once I get these done, that's when I can move into the verticals. And like I said before, doing these top and bottom lines to make these Roman numerals look straight like they're supposed to be is what's going to give you the high quality tattoo that you need to have. You'll constantly see me dab after I run lines, and this is what's going to hold my stencil for as long as possible. A lot of times people lose their stencils, which is typically from wiping too hard or just wet wiping a tattoo too soon. Remember, stretching is crucial in your line work application. The key to line work is your stretch, your machine voltage matching your hand speed, and your needle depth. The arrows you see in the video are showing all the directions I'm stretching right now in order to get these lines as crispy as possible. And since I'm running north to south right now, my left hand is stretching hard from north to south. Now, if I was going horizontally, you would see me stretch even harder in a horizontal fashion. So on this V, you're going to see me do a double pass, which is just basically building this line weight up in order to make it look thicker than just a single line pass. And all I did was run my second line directly next to my first line. Then you'll see me go fill in that little crevice at the very top of the V. So on this V, you can see I'm pulling these lines towards me. Now, if I was starting at the bottom of the V and pushing up, that would be considered a push, which it is a lot harder to do pushed lines. They are possible, but I don't recommend it in the early stages of tattooing. On this X, you're going to see me do that same double pass just to build those line weights up. And right here, this is a push. So I started from the bottom of the X and I pushed up. Now, if you try to push a line and you don't have a good stretch, typically what's going to happen is that ink is just not going to fully saturate, and it's almost going to make your lines look faint. So a reminder, pulling lines, you're bringing your line work towards your body. Pushing lines, you're pushing away from you. Now in this next step, I see a lot of people make this mistake of having the same letter or same numbers just look totally different in a tattoo. And if you want your tattoos to look clean, the best thing to do is to tattoo them in an organized fashion so they do look identical and you don't have that room for error. I want you guys to always keep in mind that line work can be ran at different voltages, and it's all going to depend on your machine stroke, your voltage, your hand speed. All that stuff has to coincide in order to run a smooth line. So when it comes to your hand speed matching your machine, if you find that your lines are too bold, typically your machine is running a little too fast or your needle depth was too deep. Now, if your lines are faint, it could be that your voltage is too low and you're running your hand speed too fast. So these little things, just you have to find that niche of what works with your machine and the rate that you're moving your hand. And once you figure that all out, tattooing is almost like riding a bike. Different parts of the skin obviously hit differently, but when it comes to running a line, you'll get to that point where you can just feel that stretch, you feel those lines going in smoothly, and eventually you're going to find that sweet spot. So when it comes to running lines on different body parts, you're going to find that some areas you have to stretch more, some areas you have to back your needle up so you don't blow stuff out. Like a shin, the shin skin at the very front of your shin is very, very thin. And if you just run your machine and your needle depth as hard as possible, you could see some blowouts. Now, when it comes to, tattooing the ribs, you'll find that you have to have a very, very good stretch in order to hit your lines, or they just don't go in. And, every part of the body is a little different. When you're practicing and you're first getting into tattooing, I always tell my apprentices that, the best thing to do is to find a flat surface, inside forearm, calf, something that is tight skin, so the stretch is already a little bit there for you, and you get your feet wet and understanding that different body parts, they're all different, and you got to find that niche of line work in the easy spots before you jump to a more expert level spot like a ribs or a stomach or a throat, and it's all a process, so be patient and you'll find your way. Since I've done Roman numerals now, what I feel like is 1,000 times, in this particular tattoo, instead of just shading these black completely, I decided let's throw a little gradient in them. So you'll see I'm going from dark to light from the top, and as I get halfway through, you'll see I'm kind of whipping and my motion is getting a lot faster. So at the very top of the letters, I'm packing black, doing my small circular motions. And then as I get towards the middle of the letter, I'm starting to whip out and move my machine a lot faster, which is making that gradient come to life. Now, if I just did my small circles all the way through, you're just gonna have a solid black letter, which is, perfect as well. But if you look, I already have that gradient just by doing that simple step. I always encourage my apprentices to try new things and don't do the same tattoo all the time. If you think you could do something to make your tattoo and your work just a little bit better, that's what makes you an artist. That's what makes your craft elevate. And it's super important to push yourself. This career is so rewarding, and if you really care about every tattoo you do, that's what's going to bring you another client and lifetime clients that really trust you with their ideas and their work, and you're going to enjoy what you do. You're going to have fun with it, and it's so enjoyable to see people get up and look at their tattoos in the mirror and just see their body language of being super pleased with the work that you put on them. As I'm shading these from the top to the bottom, that gradient comes by moving my machine faster as I get to the middle and kind of changing my pressure, my needle depth of that needle. Now, if I kept the same needle depth, typically what's going to happen is you're going to get more of that solid black. But if I'm whipping and changing my needle depth as I'm coming down through the middle of those letters, that's what's giving me that smooth gradient. On this M right now, I am packing black, so I'm doing my small ovals. The very top, I'm doing the same thing right now. And as I start coming down, I'm whipping my machine a little bit faster, and my needle depth is changing just slightly as I'm coming down there, and I'm coming up and out of the skin. That's what's giving me that nice gradient. Now, it does sometimes take more than just one try or one pass to get this accomplished. You'll see that some of these letters, the first pass, it turns out pretty good, but I always go through and smooth stuff out just a little bit in order to make it perfect. When you're first starting out tattooing and you start tattooing real skin, you're gonna find out that your mind is moving so fast because you're thinking about all the variables of tattooing that you almost rush your first tattoos. And I strongly encourage you guys to remember this one thing, which is slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And if you can remember that when you first start doing your tattoos, it's gonna help you tremendously. Always take your time and think about how you're going to execute each line properly. Always try to pull lines when you're first starting out. Sometimes it's hard to pull lines, but if you have to push, make sure your stretch is really, really good. Always remember to stretch in the direction you're pulling or pushing your lines, and it'll all come together. If you have any questions, please drop a comment, like, subscribe. We got a lot more videos coming. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.